The ultimatum. The morning sun painted Rio de Janeiro's skyline golden when the impossible happened. A ship the size of Manhattan materialized above Christ the Redeemer, its crystalline hull refracting light into 1,000 rainbows that should have been beautiful, but felt like a threat. The vessel didn't arrive through any visible means. One moment the sky was empty, the next moment it was there, rotating slowly like a cosmic jewel that had decided to visit Earth. Director Helena Vasquez stood in the emergency command center beneath the Brazilian capital, watching satellite feeds from around the world. Similar ships had appeared above Tokyo, London, Moscow, New York, and Beijing. 6 ships total, each one identical, each one completely silent. They had been there for 12 hours now, and the entire planet held its breath. The waiting ended when every electronic device on Earth displayed the same message simultaneously. Televisions, phones, computers, even digital billboards showed an alien face that was almost human, but wrong in subtle ways. The eyes were too large. The skin had a blue tint, and when it spoke, the mouth moved independently of the words that everyone heard in their own language. Species designation Earth humans, the being said, its voice carrying an authority that seemed to press against the listeners' minds. I am Commander Korthax of the Stellarian Hegemony. Your world has been selected for integration into our eternal empire. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. Helena watched as her staff scrambled to record and analyze the transmission. She had been appointed director of Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative 15 years ago, a job that most people didn't even know existed. While the public worried about wars between nations, Helena and her international team had been preparing for a very different kind of conflict. Commander Korthax continued his announcement, and his next words chilled the blood of 8 billion humans. The hegemony has ruled this galaxy for 12,000 of your years. 417 species serve us. You will be the 418th. Your tribute requirements are as follows. The alien's image was replaced by a list that scrolled past with mechanical precision. 20% of Earth's population would be conscripted for labor service. 50% of all manufactured goods would be redirected to hegemony supply chains. Earth's governments would be dissolved and replaced with hegemony administrators. All military forces would be disbanded immediately. Compliance brings prosperity. Korthax's face returned to the screens. Resistance brings annihilation. You have 7 of your Earth rotations to prepare your surrender ceremony. Our collection ships will arrive then to begin the integration process. The transmission ended as suddenly as it had begun. Around the world, panic started to spread like wildfire. But in the hidden command center beneath Rio, Director Vasquez turned to her team with a smile that would have terrified anyone who didn't know what she knew. Send the activation signal, she said calmly. Tell Colonel Mason it's time to wake up the children. 500 miles above Earth's surface, hidden inside what appeared to be a derelict satellite, Colonel James Mason received the message he had been waiting 15 years to hear. He floated in zero gravity, surrounded by screens showing status reports from locations that didn't exist on any official map. His fingers danced across holographic controls, entering codes that had been burned into his memory. All stations, this is Nest. Execute Prometheus Protocol. I repeat, execute Prometheus Protocol. The giants are waking up. Across the solar system, things that had been dormant for years began to stir. On the dark side of the moon, massive doors that had been hidden beneath lunar dust for 2 decades started to open. Inside caverns that had been carved out in absolute secrecy, ships unlike anything in human science fiction began their startup sequences. They called them Titans, and they had been built with a single purpose in mind. Not to fight a conventional war, but to wage the kind of conflict that would make other species whisper humanity's name in fear for generations. Each Titan was unique, designed by different teams who had been given only one instruction: make something that would give nightmares to nightmares. The Retribution was the first to emerge from its lunar hiding place. 3 miles long and covered in armor that seemed to absorb light, it looked less like a ship and more like a metallic demon. Its hull was covered with weapon systems that had been developed in violation of every theoretical limit engineers had believed in. Railguns that could accelerate projectiles to 20% the speed of light. Missile bays loaded with warheads that contained miniature black holes. Energy weapons that fired beams of pure antimatter. But the Retribution was just the beginning. From hidden facilities on Mars in the asteroid belt, and even from beneath Earth's oceans, more Titans began to reveal themselves. The Harbinger unfolded from what had looked like a mining station, its modular design allowing it to reshape itself like a massive mechanical origami. The Nemesis rose from the depths of the Mariana Trench, water streaming off its biomechanical hull that could heal itself when damaged. Director Vasquez watched the deployment from her command center, receiving reports from facilities around the world. In underground bunkers from Siberia to the Sahara, crews that had trained in absolute secrecy were boarding their vessels. These were not ordinary military personnel. They were people who had been selected for their ability to think beyond conventional warfare, to embrace strategies that civilized species would consider abhorrent. "Director," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the hegemony ship above us. Commander Korthax wants to speak with Earth's leadership." "Put him through," Vasquez said, straightening her uniform. "Let's see what our new friends want." Korthax's face appeared on the main screen, his large eyes narrowing as he studied her. "I am detecting unusual energy signatures from your moon and several locations in your system. Explain." Vasquez smiled politely. "We're simply preparing for your arrival, Commander, making sure everything is ready for the integration process." The alien's blue skin darkened slightly, a sign of suspicion according to the xenobiologists who had been analyzing the earlier transmission. "The energy signatures match weapon systems. Your species was evaluated. You do not possess technology capable of producing such readings." "With respect, Commander," Vasquez replied, "your evaluation might have been incomplete. You see, humanity has been preparing for this day for quite some time. We've been listening to your transmissions to other worlds. We've studied your tactics. We know about the 417 species you've conquered." Korthax's expression changed to what might have been amusement. "You have been aware of us? And yet you developed weapons? How charmingly primitive. Very well, show us your defenses. It will make an amusing addition to our historical records when we document your conquest." The transmission ended, and Vasquez turned to her staff. "He wants a show. Let's give him one. Signal the Prometheus to begin demonstration protocol." In the asteroid belt, hidden among thousands of space rocks, the Titan-class vessel Prometheus had been waiting. Unlike its siblings, the Prometheus wasn't built for direct combat. It was built for something far more terrifying. As its systems came fully online, it began to broadcast a signal that no human could hear but every piece of hegemony technology could detect. The signal was a virus, but not a conventional computer virus. It was something the Prometheus's designers had created after years of studying, captured alien transmissions, a quantum virus that could infect any system that used quantum entanglement for faster-than-light communication. Within seconds of the Prometheus beginning its broadcast, every hegemony ship within 3 light years started experiencing system failures. Commander Korthax was studying Earth's defensive preparations when alarms began screaming on his bridge. Navigation systems flickered and died. Weapons targeting computers reset themselves continuously. Life support systems started cycling randomly between settings. "What is happening?" he demanded, his blue skin now pale with shock. His technical officer's fingers flew across controls that kept changing their displays. "Unknown, Commander. Something is interfering with our quantum processors. It's like a disease spreading through our systems." Before Korthax could respond, space around his ship erupted with activity. The human titans had arrived, jumping through space using a propulsion system that should have been impossible. They didn't travel faster than light. Instead, they folded space around themselves, stepping from one location to another instantaneously. The Retribution appeared first, its massive bulk materializing so close to the hegemony ship that their shields nearly touched. Then came the Harbinger, unfolding itself into a configuration that surrounded the alien vessel on 3 sides. The Nemesis rose from beneath, having somehow traveled through space as easily as it had moved through Earth's oceans. But it was the 4th Titan that made Korthax's blood freeze. The Cerberus didn't look like a ship at all. It looked like 3 ships that had been fused together by a mad god, each section moving independently while remaining connected. Weapons of types the hegemony had never seen bristled from every surface. Some glowed with energies that hurt to perceive directly, others seemed to bend space around them, creating small tears in reality itself. "Commander Korthax," Director Vasquez's voice came through the chaotic noise on his bridge. "I believe it's time we discuss terms. But let me be clear about something first. Humanity doesn't pay tribute. We never have and we never will. What we do is protect what's ours. And if necessary, we take what belongs to those who threaten us. The Prometheus's signal intensified, and Korthax watched helplessly as his ship's main computer began displaying Earth's historical military conflicts. Every war, every battle, every instance of humanity's capacity for violence when threatened. The records went back thousands of years, a species that had been practicing warfare since before they could write. You conquered 417 species, Vasquez continued, species that believed in honor, in rules of engagement, in the civility of warfare. But humans, we wrote the book on total war. We invented concepts like mutually assured destruction. We developed weapons we were too frightened to use on ourselves. And for the last 50 years, we've been adapting all of that experience for a conflict like this. The Reckoning. The silence that followed Director Vasquez's words lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then Commander Korthax made the mistake that would be studied by military historians for centuries to come. He ordered his ships to open fire. The hegemony's weapons were impressive by any standard. Beams of focused plasma that could melt through a mountain. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to speeds that turned them into artificial meteors. Missiles loaded with antimatter warheads that could vaporize entire cities. Against any conventional enemy, it would have been overwhelming firepower. But the Titans were not conventional anything. The Retribution's armor did something impossible. Instead of trying to deflect or absorb the energy, it channeled it into its own weapon systems. Every shot that hit the Titan made it stronger, its own weapons glowing brighter as they fed on the enemy's attacks. When the Retribution finally returned fire, it did so with the combined power of its own weapons plus everything the hegemony had thrown at it. A beam of impossible brightness lanced out from the Retribution's main gun. It wasn't just energy. It was energy twisted through dimensions that shouldn't exist. When it hit the hegemony ship's shields, it didn't break them. It turned them inside out, making the shields attack the very ship they were meant to protect. The Harbinger took a different approach. As missiles streaked toward it, the ship simply ceased to exist in that location, not by moving, but by convincing the universe that it had never been there in the first place. The missiles passed through empty space, confused targeting systems trying to understand how their target had vanished from reality itself. Then the Harbinger reappeared in 12 different places simultaneously, each version firing weapons before collapsing back into a single ship. The Nemesis demonstrated why its biomechanical design was so terrifying. When plasma beams struck its hull, the living metal didn't melt. It evolved. In real time, the ship's structure adapted to become immune to that specific type of energy. By the third volley, the hegemony's weapons were having no effect at all. The Nemesis's hull actually absorbing the energy and converting it into material to repair any minor damage. But it was the Cerberus that truly showed what humanity had become capable of. The three-headed Titan split apart, each section becoming an independent vessel. One section accelerated to speeds that relativity said were impossible, its mass increasing until its mere presence began to warp space around the hegemony ship. Another section seemed to phase out of normal space, becoming translucent and ghostly, passing through the enemy's shields as if they didn't exist. The third section did something that made every physicist watching the battle question their understanding of the universe. It began to exist in multiple timelines simultaneously, attacking from past, present, and future all at once. Commander Korthax watched his tactical display in growing horror. His ship, one of the most powerful vessels in the hegemony fleet, was being taken apart like a training toy. His weapons were useless, his shields were compromised, and that cursed signal from the human ship called Prometheus was getting stronger, spreading the quantum virus deeper into his systems. Dispatch emergency signal to the fleet, he ordered. Request immediate reinforcement from all vessels within. I wouldn't do that. Colonel Mason's voice cut through the bridge speakers. You see, Commander, that signal you want to send? It'll carry our virus to every ship in your fleet. Every station, every planet with a hegemony receiver. In about 6 hours, your entire civilization's technology will be infected. But don't worry, the virus won't destroy anything. It'll just make every system display the same message. Humanity was here. The commander's blue skin had turned almost white. This is impossible. You are a primitive species. You discovered faster-than-light communication only decades ago. That's what we wanted you to think. Director Vasquez's voice replied. "We've been listening to the galaxy for over a century, Commander. We heard every transmission, studied every conquered world's final broadcasts. We learned about the hegemony 40 years ago, and we decided that when you finally came for Earth, we wouldn't just be ready to defend ourselves. We'd be ready to end you." As if to emphasize her point, dozens more Titans began appearing around the hegemony ships above Earth's other cities. Each one was unique, a nightmare given form and function. The Hydra split into smaller and smaller vessels every time it was hit, each piece fully functional and aggressive. The Phoenix literally died when struck by antimatter, only to resurrect itself from its own debris, immune to what had killed it. The Gorgon fired beams that didn't destroy matter but transformed it, turning pieces of hegemony ships into exotic materials that were toxic to their own systems. In Tokyo, the hegemony ship found itself facing a Titan called Kamikaze that seemed to have no self-preservation protocols at all. It simply rammed straight through the enemy vessel's shields, its hull designed to survive impacts that would shatter planets. In London, the Titan designated Excalibur demonstrated weapons that cut through dimensions themselves, leaving wounds in space that bled exotic radiation. "All ships, retreat immediately," Korthax commanded, but his orders came too late. The Prometheus's virus had evolved, learning from the hegemony systems even as it infected them. Now it wasn't just disrupting operations, it was rewriting them. Navigation systems that tried to calculate jump coordinates instead calculated the probability of the hegemony's defeat. Weapons that tried to target human ships instead began playing Earth's historical archives, showing every time humanity had faced impossible odds and won anyway. Colonel Mason watched from his command station as the hegemony ships tried to flee. "Execute Phase 2, he ordered. "Show them what happens when you threaten our home." Across the solar system, hidden installations revealed themselves. The surface of Mars split open in a dozen places, revealing massive cannons that had been built in secret over 2 decades. Jupiter's moons, which the hegemony had dismissed as uninhabited, erupted with activity as defensive platforms came online. Even Saturn's rings revealed their secret, as millions of what had appeared to be ice particles turned out to be dormant attack drones, now swarming toward the enemy fleet. But the real surprise came from Earth itself. The planet's oceans began to boil in specific locations as ships rose from depths that had hidden them for years. Not Titans, but something arguably worse. Swarm carriers, each one containing thousands of autonomous combat units no bigger than a car. They erupted from the ocean like metallic locusts, spreading across the sky in clouds that blotted out the sun. Each drone was equipped with a simple but devastating weapon, a miniature teleportation device that could transport a small antimatter charge directly inside an enemy ship's hull. Shields were useless against them. Armor meant nothing. The drones simply appeared inside the hegemony vessels and detonated, turning the mighty warships into expanding clouds of plasma. Commander Korthax's ship shuddered as explosions rippled through its lower decks. His tactical officer turned to him with an expression of pure defeat. "Commander, we've lost 60% of ship functionality. The fleet is reporting similar damage. We cannot maintain position." Through the chaos, Director Vasquez's face appeared on the main screen one more time. "Commander Korthax, you have 2 choices. You can return to your hegemony and deliver this message. Earth is off limits. Any ship that enters our solar system will be considered a declaration of war. And as you've seen, we don't fight wars to win. We fight wars to ensure they never happen again. What's the second choice?" Korthax asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The second choice is that you don't leave at all. Your ships become expanding clouds of atoms, and we send your hegemony a different message. We send them video of what happened here, along with a promise that we're coming for them next." The bridge of the hegemony ship fell silent except for the sound of alarms and the distant rumble of explosions. Korthax looked at the tactical display showing his proud fleet being systematically demolished by weapons that violated everything he thought he knew about warfare. In 12,000 years of conquest, the hegemony had never faced an enemy like this. They had conquered civilizations that fought with honor, that followed rules, that believed in the sanctity of life. Humanity believed in survival, and they would burn the galaxy to achieve it. "We accept your first offer," Korthax said, each word tasting like poison. "We will leave and not return." "Smart choice," Vasquez replied. "Colonel Mason will escort you to the edge of our system. But before you go, there's something else you need to understand. Those 417 species you conquered? We've been in contact with many of them. We've shared our virus, our weapons designs, our tactics. Right now, across the galaxy, slave species are building their own titans. Your hegemony's days of conquest are over. The transmission ended and Korthak slumped in his command chair. In 7 days, they had gone from demanding tribute from a primitive world to running for their lives from monsters they couldn't comprehend. The hegemony had ruled for 12,000 years, but they had never faced an enemy that had spent its entire existence perfecting the art of war. As the battered hegemony fleet limped toward the edge of Earth's solar system, pursued by titans that could have destroyed them at any moment, Colonel Mason sent one final message to the alien commander. Tell your hegemony what you saw here. Tell them about the titans, about the weapons that shouldn't exist, about a species that would rather see the universe burn than bend the knee. Tell them that humanity is watching. And if they ever threaten us or any other species again, we won't send a fleet. We'll send an apocalypse. The hegemony ships jumped to faster than light speed the moment they cleared the solar system's edge, carrying with them a story that would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The story of a small blue planet that had looked weak and primitive, but had hidden fangs that could tear apart an empire. Back on Earth, Director Vasquez stood before the United Nations Assembly, now expanded to include representatives from every nation and territory on the planet. The crisis had done something that thousands of years of human history had failed to achieve. It had united humanity under a single purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, today we showed the galaxy that Earth is not a target. It's a predator, and we've only shown them a fraction of what we're capable of. Project Titan was just the beginning. We have contingencies that make today's battle look like a warning shot. She paused, looking at the faces of world leaders who were still processing what they had witnessed. The galaxy thought we were primitive because we had only recently reached the stars. They didn't understand that we spent those years not learning how to explore, but learning how to conquer. Every probe we sent out was a spy. Every satellite was a weapon in disguise. Every peaceful mission was reconnaissance for war. The assembly erupted in discussion, but Vasquez raised her hand for silence. The hegemony will spread word of what happened here. Other empires will hear about it. Some will fear us. Some will want to test us. We need to be ready for both. The Titans will remain active, patrolling our system. The virus will continue to evolve, spreading through quantum networks across the galaxy. And we will continue to build, to prepare, to ensure that Earth never faces such a threat again. As she spoke, across the solar system, the Titans took up their positions, silent guardians that would wait in the darkness between worlds, ready to unleash hell on anyone foolish enough to threaten humanity's home. The Retribution settled into orbit around Mars, its weapons powered down but never offline. The Prometheus continued its work, the virus evolving and spreading, turning the galaxy's own communication network into humanity's early warning system. In the depths of space, Commander Korthax's fleet finally stopped to assess their damage and send their report back to the hegemony's core worlds. The message was simple but would echo through their civilization for generations. Earth is not for conquest. Earth is where conquest dies. The story of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Species that had been enslaved for millennia suddenly had hope. The hegemony had seemed invincible, but a single primitive world had sent them running in terror. Rebellions began sparking across conquered worlds inspired by Earth's example. The weapons designs that humanity had secretly shared began appearing in resistance movements. The virus spread through hegemony systems, not destroying but disrupting, making coordinated response to the uprisings impossible. Within a year, the hegemony that had ruled for 12,000 years collapsed, not from external invasion, but from internal revolution sparked by the example of a small blue planet that had refused to kneel. Where once stood an empire built on fear and submission, now rose a confederation of free worlds, each one displaying the same symbol on their flags, a blue marble surrounded by stars, with two simple words beneath it, "Remember Earth." And in the Sol system, humanity continued to build, to prepare, to evolve their instruments of war, not because they sought conquest, but because they knew a simple truth that they had learned through millennia of their own conflicts. Peace was not the absence of war. Peace was the promise that anyone who broke it would face consequences that would echo through eternity. The Titans remained at their posts, silent and waiting, a reminder to the universe that humanity was watching. And if anyone ever forgot the lesson of the hegemony, if they ever thought Earth was weak or vulnerable, they would learn what countless human generals had known throughout history. When humanity goes to war, they don't fight to win. They fight to ensure that their enemies never fight again.